Sometimes, the people you trust the most can shatter your world in an instant. A brilliant lawyer with a heart full of love believed in forever, until betrayal forced her to walk away from the life she built. But what if heartbreak was only the beginning? Welcome to our channel, where we bring you heartwarming and deeply emotional stories that touch the soul. We're so glad you're here to join us on this journey of love, loss, and triumph. Each tale we tell is crafted with passion and care, and we'd love your support. Subscribe to our channel to help us continue creating stories that inspire and move you. Your support makes all the difference. Lucy had always believed in the power of love. She thought that with trust, commitment, and effort, any relationship could survive. As a successful lawyer working from home, she had built a peaceful life with her husband, Jason. Both were lawyers, and while Jason worked in a busy law firm in Houston, Lucy handled smaller cases remotely, enjoying the flexibility of her schedule. Their home was a beautiful one, filled with laughter, dinners together, and plans for the future, or so it seemed. On the outside, Lucy and Jason appeared to have the perfect marriage. They had a spacious home in an upscale neighborhood, friends who admired their careers, and what seemed to be a strong partnership. Lucy loved Jason deeply. She trusted him with her whole heart and believed he felt the same. They had shared so many dreams, talked about starting a family, and supported each other's careers. But one fateful evening shattered all of those illusions. It started as a normal day. Jason came home later than usual, claiming he had a big case that required extra hours. Lucy, ever supportive, didn't question it, but something felt off that night. Jason was distracted, his eyes distant, and there was a coldness in his touch that Lucy had never felt before. She brushed it off at first, blaming it on stress, but as days passed, the coldness grew and Jason became more distant, spending less time at home and more time working late. Lucy's heart ached with worry, but she still didn't want to believe that anything was truly wrong. However, doubt started to creep in, and eventually, Lucy's fears were confirmed in the worst possible way. One afternoon, while cleaning their shared home, she stumbled upon something she wasn't supposed to see: a series of text messages on Jason's phone. They were from another woman, filled with sweet words, promises of stolen moments, and memories of nights Jason had claimed to be at the office. Lucy's hands trembled as she scrolled through the messages, her vision blurring with tears. Her entire body felt numb, as though the air had been sucked out of her lungs. The man she loved, the one she had trusted with her heart and soul, had been unfaithful. And the worst part, Jason didn't even try to hide it. It was all there, clear, undeniable proof of his betrayal. When Lucy confronted Jason that evening, she expected him to deny it, to at least fight for their marriage. But Jason didn't even bother with an apology. Instead, he looked at her with cold indifference, like he had already moved on. "It's been going on for a while, Lucy," he said flatly. "I didn't want to hurt you, but I didn't know how to tell you." Lucy's heart broke into a million pieces at his words. The man she had loved with everything in her was not even sorry for what he had done. The person she thought she knew was a stranger. Her tears came fast and heavy, her body trembling as her mind tried to process the betrayal. How could he do this? How could he just throw away years of love, trust, and marriage like it meant nothing? For days, Lucy could hardly get out of bed. The pain of Jason's betrayal consumed her. She replayed every moment in her mind, wondering if she had missed the signs. She cried until she had no more tears left, the weight of her broken heart pressing down on her like a boulder she couldn't escape. But deep down, Lucy knew that she couldn't stay in this pain forever. She couldn't live her life trapped in a marriage built on lies. After days of heartache and soul-searching, Lucy made the hardest decision of her life. She had to leave. Staying with Jason would only continue to break her spirit. It wasn't going to be easy, but she deserved better than a man who didn't value her love. With tears in her eyes, Lucy packed her bags, leaving behind the home they had built together. It was terrifying, and she didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear: she was brave enough to walk away. As she stepped out the door for the last time, Lucy felt a mix of sadness and strength. Her heart was heavy, but deep inside, a small flicker of hope began to rise. She was about to start a new chapter in her life, one where she would no longer be defined by Jason's betrayal. For the first time in a long time, she was free. After leaving Jason, Lucy knew she had to start over. Moving away from Houston, she found herself in a new city where she could leave behind the painful memories and begin healing. But starting over was much harder than she imagined. The loneliness hit her the moment she walked into her new apartment. The emptiness was deafening, and despite the fresh start she had hoped for, Lucy couldn't escape the lingering sadness that followed her. At first, she threw herself into her work. As a lawyer, Lucy had always been passionate about helping her clients, but now her cases became her only focus. She worked long hours from her home office, trying to fill the void left by Jason's betrayal. She avoided socializing, fearing the inevitable questions about her marriage. Still, despite the distractions, loneliness crept in during quiet moments. Was she enough on her own? Did leaving Jason mean she would be alone forever? These thoughts haunted her, leaving her questioning her worth. One day, months after settling into her new life, Lucy decided to attend a legal conference. She had always loved these events, where she could meet new people in her field and learn about the latest developments in law. Though she wasn't feeling up to it, something pushed her to go. Maybe it was the need for a change, or maybe it was just the hope that something new might spark a little joy in her heart. It was at that conference that Lucy met John. He was everything she hadn't expected: charming, kind, and a billionaire. Lucy learned that he was a successful businessman who often invested in legal startups and charitable causes. They'd bumped into each other during a coffee break, and John immediately struck up a conversation. Lucy found herself smiling for the first time in what felt like forever. John had a warmth about him that put her at ease. They talked for hours, sharing stories about their work, their struggles, and, surprisingly, their personal lives. Lucy didn't share all the details about her past, but John seemed to understand her pain. There was something different about him. He wasn't just talking to her, he was listening, truly listening. For the first time since leaving Jason, Lucy felt a small spark of hope flicker inside her. Over the following weeks, John reached out to Lucy, inviting her to lunches, dinners, and casual walks in the park. She was hesitant at first. After all, her heart was still fragile, and the idea of trusting someone again felt terrifying. What if she got hurt? What if John wasn't who he seemed to be? But the more time they spent together, the more Lucy felt herself slowly starting to heal. John treated her with respect and kindness, something Jason had never truly done. With John, Lucy felt valued. He made her feel like she mattered, not just because she was beautiful or smart, but because of who she was at her core. He cared about her opinions, her dreams, and her pain. As their connection grew, Lucy couldn't deny the feelings that were starting to blossom in her heart. She felt excited, but also scared. She had trusted Jason once, and he had shattered her. Could she risk her heart again? Every step forward with John felt like walking on shaky ground. Lucy was afraid of falling, of losing herself again in someone else's world. But John was different. He gave her space to be herself and made it clear that he admired her independence. He wasn't trying to replace Jason or fix her. He was simply there, offering his love and support without asking for anything in return. As Lucy's relationship with John deepened, she started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could find happiness again. The fear of getting hurt was still there, lurking in the back of her mind, but with John by her side, hope began to grow. Lucy found herself smiling more, laughing again, and daring to dream about a future filled with love, not pain. Still, even with John's love, Lucy couldn't shake the fear that things were too good to be true. After all, she had trusted before and been hurt. What if John wasn't who he seemed to be? What if the happiness she was feeling now was just an illusion, waiting to crumble? Little did Lucy know, her life was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would challenge everything she thought she knew about love and trust. For the first time in months, Lucy was starting to feel like herself again. Her relationship with John had brought her joy she hadn't felt since leaving Jason. John was kind, thoughtful, and everything Jason wasn't. He made her feel important, cherished, and loved. Yet, even with all the happiness John brought into her life, Lucy was still cautious. Deep down, a small voice warned her not to trust too easily. After all, she had been burned before. Just as Lucy was beginning to believe in the possibility of a new future, her past came crashing back into her life. It started with a phone call, one she almost didn't answer. When she picked up, her heart nearly stopped. The voice on the other end was one she hadn't expected to hear again. Jason's. "Lucy, I'm so sorry. I made a huge mistake." Jason's words cut through her like a knife. She hadn't heard from him since the day she walked out of their home in Houston. Lucy's mind raced as she struggled to process the flood of emotions his voice triggered. Anger, sadness, confusion. It all hit her at once. How could he be calling her now, after all this time? Jason begged for forgiveness. He admitted to cheating and confessed that he had been a fool. He claimed that he still loved her, that he missed her every single day. He wanted her back, promising that things would be different this time. He sounded desperate, his voice raw with emotion. It was the apology Lucy had dreamed of during her darkest days. But now that it was here, it felt too late. As much as Lucy wanted to hang up and shut him out forever, she couldn't help but feel conflicted. Jason had been her husband, her first love. She had shared years of her life with him. And despite everything, a part of her still cared for him. Hearing his voice brought back memories, some good, some painful. And now, after all these months, he wanted her back. Lucy found herself torn. A small part of her wondered if Jason was truly sorry, if he had really changed. But another part, the stronger part, reminded her of John, of how he had treated her with respect, kindness, and patience. John had shown her what it meant to be loved and valued in a way Jason never had, but could she trust him completely? In the days that followed, Jason's return weighed heavily on Lucy's mind. She tried to focus on her work, on her growing relationship with John, but Jason's words echoed in her heart. She didn't know what to do. Should she give Jason a second chance, or was it too late for them? John had shown her a new kind of love, but the past wasn't so easy to forget. Then, just as Lucy was grappling with her feelings, another bombshell dropped. She discovered a secret about John that left her reeling. While talking to an old colleague, Lucy learned that John wasn't just a successful billionaire. He had a past connection to Jason. Years ago, John and Jason had worked together on a business deal, a deal that had gone sour. The fallout from that failed deal had been messy, leaving both men bitter and angry. But John had never mentioned any of this to Lucy. Why had he kept it a secret? Suddenly, everything felt like a lie. Lucy's mind raced as she tried to make sense of it all. Had John pursued her because he genuinely loved her, or had he seen her as a way to get revenge on Jason? The timing of Jason's return and the revelation of John's connection to him made Lucy's stomach churn. She didn't know who to trust anymore. The man who had hurt her so deeply in the past was begging for another chance, while the man who had made her feel safe and loved had been hiding a dark secret. Lucy felt like she was living in a nightmare, caught between two men who had both betrayed her trust in different ways. As she confronted John about his past with Jason, his eyes filled with regret. He admitted the truth that he and Jason had once been business partners, but he insisted that his feelings for Lucy were real. He swore he hadn't pursued her to get back at Jason. Still, Lucy couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Why hadn't he told her sooner? Why had he kept something so important hidden? Torn between the past and the present, Lucy's heart was in conflict. She had worked so hard to rebuild her life after Jason's betrayal, and now she didn't know who to believe. Both men claimed to love her, but could she really trust either of them? The shock of John's secret left Lucy feeling confused, vulnerable, and utterly alone. The happiness she had begun to feel was slipping away, and she didn't know how to stop it. As the weight of these revelations pressed down on her, Lucy realized one thing. Her next decision would change everything. The tension in the room was thick as Lucy confronted both Jason and John, demanding the truth. She stood tall, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. She couldn't continue living in the shadows of lies and half-truths. She needed clarity, no matter how painful it might be. Jason was the first to speak. His eyes pleaded with her as he tried to make his case. "Lucy, I made mistakes, yes. But I've changed. I never stopped loving you. And I want to make things right. John, he's using you to get back at me. He's only interested in revenge, not you." His words cut through the air, harsh and cold, but Lucy had heard this tone from Jason before, the one that twisted the truth to suit his needs. John, calm but clearly hurt, looked into Lucy's eyes with a sincerity that made her heart ache. "Yes, Lucy, I knew Jason from years ago. We were business partners, and the deal went bad. I was ashamed of that past, and I should have told you sooner. But my feelings for you are real. I didn't pursue you because of Jason. I fell in love with you because of who you are." Lucy's heart pounded as she listened to both men. She had been betrayed by Jason, the man she had once trusted with her entire life, and now she discovered that John had been hiding something from her as well. Torn between two men who had both let her down in different ways, Lucy didn't know who to trust anymore. She felt the weight of their words pressing down on her, suffocating her thoughts. Was Jason truly sorry? Could John really have hidden this part of his past for so long without it being a sign of something worse? Lucy was stuck, unsure of what to do. Both men had betrayed her trust in different ways, and yet a part of her still cared for them both. For days, Lucy avoided making any decisions. She needed space, time to think, and time to understand her own heart. She stepped back from John, who gave her the distance she asked for, though he reached out a few times to remind her that he was there for her, no matter what. Jason, on the other hand, persisted, sending messages and flowers, doing everything he could to show her that he still cared. But Lucy knew that her decision couldn't be based on guilt or nostalgia. She couldn't go back to Jason simply because they shared a history, nor could she stay with John just to prove she wasn't still tied to the past. She needed to follow her heart and trust herself. Weeks passed, and John returned with a sincere apology, one that was not wrapped in defensiveness or excuses. He admitted that his connection to Jason was a part of his past he wished he could erase, but he understood why Lucy had been hurt. "I kept it from you because I was afraid of losing you," he confessed, his voice gentle but firm. "But I've realized that love means being honest, even when it's hard. I love you, Lucy, and I want to build a life with you. No more secrets." John then did something that took Lucy by surprise. He proposed. It wasn't in some grand, over-the-top way, but in the quiet of her apartment, where they had shared so many deep conversations. He held her hand and looked into her eyes, promising her a life built on trust, honesty, and love. "I know it's not easy, but if you're willing to take a chance on me, I promise to always be the man you deserve." Lucy was overwhelmed. A part of her still hesitated, scared of being hurt again. But as she looked into John's eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in Jason for a long time: genuine love and respect. After much thought, Lucy realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about two people being willing to grow together, to face their fears, and to choose each other despite the challenges. After a lot of reflection, Lucy said yes. The following months passed in a whirlwind of preparations, not just for a wedding, but for a new chapter in her life. The wedding itself was intimate and simple, just as Lucy had always dreamed. It wasn't about wealth or status, but about love. Surrounded by close friends and family, Lucy walked down the aisle with a heart full of hope and happiness. As she and John exchanged vows, she knew she was making the right choice. Becoming a billionaire's wife wasn't about the money for Lucy. It was about stepping into a life where she was loved and valued for who she was, not what she could give. But even after marrying John, Lucy didn't let her new life define her. She continued working as a lawyer, helping those in need, especially women who had gone through situations similar to her own. With John's support, she started a charity focused on providing legal aid for women trapped in difficult relationships, giving them the tools to regain their independence, just as she had. In time, Lucy found peace. She no longer let her past with Jason define her or cloud her judgment. She had learned that she didn't need to choose between love and independence. She could have both. Her marriage to John was a partnership built on mutual respect, and together, they thrived. Looking back, Lucy realized that every painful moment had led her to this place of happiness, where she was not just a billionaire's wife, but a woman who had found balance between love, career, and self-worth. The money didn't matter. What mattered was that she had finally found peace within herself, a love that nurtured her, and a future she could be proud of. Lucy had learned to trust again, but more importantly, she had learned to trust herself. Thank you so much for watching. We truly hope this story resonated with you. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It means the world to us and helps us create even more beautiful stories for you. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Stay tuned for more heartwarming tales, and remember, your support keeps the inspiration flowing.